In the latest update to War Thunder, patch 1.95 Northern Winds, 2 new top tier jets were added, both variants of the iconic MiG-21. In this video we will be looking at the East German MiG-21 MF. With its powerful engines, nimble manoeuvrability, and deadly firepower, it has certainly made a name for itself in top tier jet realistic battles. Alright lads, today I'm going to be talking about the performance, weapons and playstyle of the newest top tier cancer. Starting as always with the basics, the MiG-21 MF is a rank 6 battle rating 10.3 jet fighter, located in the German tech tree. This jet is a tech tree vehicle, meaning anyone can grind it, which is unusual seeing as Gaijin usually locks overperforming vehicles behind a paywall. KA-50. To unlock the MiG-21 MF, you will first need to grind out 390,000 RP, followed by a purchase price of 1,020,000 Silver Lions. After this, you have an additional crew train price of 290,000 Silver Lions, for a combined cost of 1,310,000 Silver Lions. On top of this, it will set you back an additional 1,020,000 Silver Lions for an expert qualification. And for the ace qualification, that will cost you a whopping 2,800 Golden Eagles. For a tech tree vehicle, the MiG-21 MF has a very good base RP modifier of 2.32, the highest of any German plane. The base modifier of 2.32 translates into an RP reward modifier of 232% on a free-to-play account, and 464% on a premium account. Additionally, a talisman can be bought for this vehicle for the cost of 2,800 Golden Eagles, which would increase the RP modifier to 696%. Like the RP modifier, the Silver Lion modifier is also rather good for a non-premium. With a base modifier of 2.7, you get a Silver Lion reward modifier of 270%, and on a premium account, it rises to 405%. Overall, these reward modifiers are very good. While there are non-premium planes with much higher Silver Lions, the MiG-21 MF has the joint highest RP modifier of any tech tree vehicle. If you'd like to know more about this plane, and how to piss off the entire enemy team by spamming advanced air-to-air missiles at them, then stick around for the rest of the video. The MiG-21 was an evolution from the previous MiG designs, notably the MiG-15, 17 and 19. It aimed to combine the capabilities of both a fighter and an interceptor into a single aircraft. What resulted in the MiG-21 was a lightweight fighter capable of achieving Mach 2 with a relatively low-powered afterburning engine, making it comparable to the Lockheed F-104 and Northrop F-5, as well as the French Mirage 3. Like many aircraft designed as an interceptor, the MiG-21 had a short range. This was exacerbated by the poor placement of internal fuel tanks ahead of the centre of gravity. As the internal fuel was consumed, the centre of gravity would shift rearward beyond acceptable parameters. This had the effect of making the plane statically unstable to the point of being difficult to control. This gave the plane an endurance of only around 45 minutes. This seriously limited its capabilities in the role as a fighter, due to its incredibly low loiter time. The MiG-21 served with many countries in several theatres, but where the MiG-21 really made a name for itself was the Vietnam War. Here its capabilities as an interceptor were put to the test. The MiG-21 was found to be incredibly effective in ground-controlled interception missions. Ground-based radars would pick up American planes, and the MiGs were sent to ambush them. As the MiGs knew where the American planes would be, they had no need to search for their targets, so their low fuel load was not seen as an issue. These interception missions carried out by the Vietnam's People's Air Force caused significant disruption to American bombing efforts, and many F-105 Thunder Chiefs were lost to Vietnamese MiG-21 pilots. Even with the design's impressive interception abilities, the characteristic layout with the shotgun and front air intake did not see widespread use outside of the USSR, and it eventually proved to have its limited development potential, mainly because of the very small space available for the radar in the nose of the plane. Another issue with the MiG was the delta wing. While excellent for a fast climbing interceptor, the wing design that meant any form of turning in combat led to a rapid loss of speed. This significantly reduced its ability to compete in a sustained dogfight. A total of 10,645 MiG-21 variants were built in the USSR. Whilst it was replaced relatively quickly by the variable geometry MiG-23 and MiG-27 for ground support duties, it wasn't until the introduction of the MiG-29 that the Soviet Union ultimately replaced the MiG-21 as its main air superiority fighter. The variant we have in game is the East German MiG-21 MF. This was an upgraded export version of the MiG-21. The M designation refers to the Russian word for modernized, due to the addition of the new RP-22 radar, and the F designation refers to the Russian word for upgraded or uprated, referring to the upgraded R13-300 engine. The East German Air Force began receiving the early model MiG-21s throughout the 1960s, and during the 1970s, the Soviets allowed the East Germans to receive the newer and more advanced MiG-21 MF. Whilst the East Germans began to receive the final version of the MiG-21 BIS in 1976, the MF variant stayed in service right up until German reunification in 1990. The MiG-21 MF is powered by the Tomansky R-13-300 jet engine. It produces a whopping 3,750 kg of thrust. This powers the MiG-21 up to a top speed of 2,240 km per hour at an altitude of 13 km. While this is impressive, engagements in War Thunder do not usually take place that high up. The speed of the MiG-21 is still impressive at low speeds, and can actually rip its wing in a straight line. Travelling above an indicated airspeed of 1,300 km per hour will break the wings straight off the plane, so beware when diving on a target from high altitude. The powerful engine of the MiG-21 gives it an excellent climb rate of 165 meters per second. While not as impressive as the British FGR's 210 meters per second, it is still more than enough to be competitive at top tier. The acceleration of the MiG-21 is pretty average below the speed of 700 km per hour, but after that, it takes off like a rocket. Due to this, it is a very good idea to try and keep the MiG always above 700 km an hour. Similar to the way you should always try and keep the Hawk or Hunter above 800 km per hour. The rather low speed acceleration is a big issue in this plane, and this is due to the plane's wings. The large delta wings of the plane are great for going fast and climbing, but as soon as you start to turn, they create a huge amount of drag. This significantly slows the plane down. Even performing gentle turns will completely kill your acceleration. The nature of the delta-winged aircraft also means that the MiG-21 isn't a low-speed fighter, and stall maneuvers are pretty much out of the question. Even equipped with the powerful engines, the high angle of attack of the wings when performing sharp turns in a dogfight will create so much drag that acceleration is borderline zero. This means you will get dunked on by pretty much every other jet in the game if you try and engage in a low-speed stall fight. While the plane does struggle with low-speed maneuvers, it is actually pretty good at medium-speed reversals. You can turn sharply, which will bleed off a good chunk of speed, which usually causes an enemy to overshoot. You can then launch a missile at them and hopefully get a kill. Just remember, any sort of turning will absolutely kill your speed, so you are vulnerable after a reversal. It will take you around 15 seconds to accelerate back up to supersonic speeds. The MiG-21 is surprisingly most maneuverable at speeds between 1,150 km per hour and 900 km per hour. This is the benefit of the delta wing, good high-speed performance. Below 900 km per hour, and particularly below 600 km per hour, the MiG-21 is like a flying brick. Overall, the performance of the MiG-21 MF is rather good when played with discipline. It is not a turn fighter, it wasn't designed to be one, and it can't really be played like one. The energy retention in turns is absolutely abysmal due to the delta wings, meaning this plane should be played as a boom and zoomer, making sure not to unnecessarily throw away energy in overly optimistic attacks. The MiG-21 MF stock weapon is a GSH-23L. This weapon system is essentially two 23mm cannons with a high cyclic fire rate. These guns are essentially copies of the guns found on most of the Soviet Mi-24 gunships. The cannons are located on the belly of the plane, which makes aiming them more difficult compared to conventional nose-mounted guns. The aiming issue is also made worse by the fact that these guns have a very low muzzle velocity, meaning you will have to lead targets unusually more than most other jets in the game. You'll only have a total of 200 rounds of ammunition split across the two guns, which means you'll have to be very disciplined with your shots, especially considering the guns have a fire rate of 3,396 rounds per minute. You'd think that having such a limited ammo supply would be balanced by the fact that these guns do immense damage. Well, no, they do fuck all to be honest. They can destroy planes if you get a good burst into an enemy, but in deflection shots, where in reality only a few rounds will actually hit a plane, I found these guns to be incredibly unreliable. They are nothing compared to the godlike British Aidens. The MiG-21 also has 4 hardpoints, 2 on either wing, which gives you the ability to carry several different weapon systems. We'll start with the most basic, the good old-fashioned dumb bombs. This plane can carry 4 250kg bombs, 2 on either wing. The bombs have a destructive radius of 5 meters and a max armor penetration of 97mm. While these bombs can be used to partially destroy a mini-base in Air RB, their effectiveness in ground realistic is rather limited. This is due to the high speed of the MiG itself. Trying to land a bomb within a 5-meter radius of a tank whilst travelling near supersonic speeds is incredibly hard. Another option for ground attack are the 2 types of rockets available to carry. The first is the good old S-5K. You can carry these rockets in 2 configurations, the first with 64 rockets and the second with 96 rockets. The S-5Ks themselves have a high explosive anti-tank warhead capable of penetrating 150mm of armour. This is pretty terrible, and the warhead's measly payload of 344 grams of TNT is also terrible. The rockets do have a pretty good travel speed of 610 meters per second, making them comparable to the French Sneb rockets. However, unlike the Snebs, the S-5Ks seem to be rather inaccurate and hard to aim. The second rockets available are the S-24s. You can only carry 4 of them, compared to the 96 S-5Ks, but what you lack in quantity, they make up for in quality. While the S-24s are slower, only having a maximum speed of 410 meters per second, they have a huge 25.5 kilograms of TNT in their warheads, giving them 80mm of penetration at all angles. You will still need a direct hit to take out a main battle tank, but a close miss will still kill a lightly armoured target. Due to the high speed of the MiG-21, bombs and rockets are not really that effective. Most ground attack runs usually involve steep dives onto a target to get the best accuracy. Due to the MiG's speed and delta wings, this just isn't practical. In my opinion, the MiG-21 shouldn't be used as a ground attack in the ground realistic battles, as I feel there are better planes in the German tech tree to carry out this role. But the real meat and potatoes of the MiG-21 are its air-to-air missiles, of which you have the choice of 2. But for anyone with more than 10 functioning brain cells, the choice is pretty obvious. The first missiles you unlock are the R3Ss. These are the same missiles found on many of the early Soviet jets. They have a maximum overload of 10 Gs and a rear aspect lock range of 3.5 km. At battle rating 9.0 they are great, but at 10.3, where most engagements take place at near supersonic speeds, they are just nowhere near good enough to get reliable kills. While they are handy to have alongside the stock cannons, they are completely overshadowed by the second air-to-air missile. The second missile is the reason that this plane is so well known and feared. The MiG-21 MF is able to carry 4 R-60 advanced air-to-air missiles. The R-60s have a maximum overload of 18 Gs, making them the second most manoeuvrable jet missiles in game, after the SRAMs on the Hunter F6. And while the SRAMs only really have an effective range of 1.5 km, the R-60s are effective out to 5 km, which in my opinion makes them the overall most powerful missiles in game. The R-60s have a very large seeker head, allowing you to lead the target before launching the missile, significantly improving the chance of hitting at close range. The R-60s are easily dodgeable by any jet who is travelling at high speed. A quick rolling turn is usually enough to defeat the missile. Where this missile really shines is against opponents travelling at medium speeds, such as enemies who are currently in or have just exited a dogfight. At medium speeds, the amazing tracking and maximum overload mean that there is literally nothing a slow moving opponent can do to avoid the missile. The R-60s have been branded as overpowered, and I kind of have to agree. The last thing I will mention is this plane is the first German jet to get access to a radar. While it is useful for finding targets, especially in simulator battles, it does not have a targeting computer. This means it helps to acquire targets, but does not help in destroying them. Nonetheless, a welcome addition for all German sim players. Overall, the MiG's weapons options are pretty good. The stock grind is pretty awful, however, as the 23mm cannons are incredibly hard to use, and I'd recommend grinding out the R6s as soon as possible. I wouldn't bother with ground pounding in this plane. Its high drag delta wings make it unsuitable for low speed accurate strafing attacks. Considering this plane's excellent offensive missiles, the MiG-21 MF should focus on the role it excels at, as a high-speed interceptor. Because of the fuel-hungry engine of this plane, I would recommend taking the full 29 minutes of fuel. I did experiment with only 20 minutes. While it is usable, the extra 9 minutes did allow me to make it back to base in a few games. In a game, I will take the R-60 air-to-air missiles as well as the air target belts for the cannons. When taking off, deploy your takeoff flaps and lift your cursor up to around 7 degrees. Be extremely careful not to strike the tail of your plane on the runway, as it immediately destroys your engine. After taking off, build up speed in the horizontal. I usually get up to supersonic and then put the MiG in a 20 to 25 degree climb. This may sound extreme, but the MiG's engine power pretty much keeps you supersonic in a 25 degree climb. When at altitude, you should try and look for slow moving targets below you. Alternatively, targets at higher altitude. Due to the low air pressure at high altitude, jets are pretty much unable to dodge your missiles if they are above 7 km. This works both for and against you, as if you use your own engine power to get that high, and an enemy below you launches a missile, there's very little that you can do to dodge it. In general, the rules of engagements with the R-60s depend on your opponent's speed. It is a lot harder to get a kill against a fast-moving jet, as they have more energy to evade the missiles. Try not to get fixated on one opponent, and keep an eye out for enemies engaging friendlies, as they probably bled some speed in the engagement, making them incredibly vulnerable to your R-60s. In general, the R-60s are best launched at around 1.5 to 2 km away against fast-moving targets, and with slower-moving targets, you can pretty much fire within 3 km. Unless your target is really slow and flying straight, I wouldn't recommend firing within 1 km of a target, as a missile will struggle to track against a close-range manoeuvring enemy. In terms of defensive flying, as long as you go into the engagement with a decent amount of speed, you can reverse pretty much anything. Problems arise, however, if your opponent just breaks off and repeatedly boom and zooms you. While this is an issue, making sure never to be caught slow is your best defense against this happening. I had no issues whatsoever trying to land this plane. Most jets struggle to bleed off speed to land safely, but this is where your delta wing is a friend. Cutting your throttle and deploying your air brake will cause you to dump speed. Add in some light turning, and you can go from supersonic to landing speed in around 15 seconds. Your gear can be deployed at any speed below 500 km per hour, and your landing flaps below 450 km per hour. If you feel like you are stalling, just go straight to afterburner, and the powerful engine is usually enough to recover the plane. Once you touch down, a drag chute will deploy below 300 km per hour. The entire landing process can take less than a minute and is incredibly easy. It is great for rapid refueling and rearming. To conclude, I think the MiG-21 is an incredibly powerful aircraft when fully upgraded, maybe just a little bit too powerful for battle rating 10.3. It's incredibly good RP and silver line modifiers, great performance, and absolutely lethal air-to-air missiles make this plane one of the best free-to-play silver line grinders in the game. I do not think that the MiG-21s will be nerfed. I do however think Gaijin will add vehicles to other tech trees which will compete with this plane. It is rumoured that both the Americans and the Japanese will be getting late model F4 Phantoms in the next patch, presumably with late model air-to-air missiles. So Gaijin will probably be taking the old Modern Warfare 2 approach of balancing the game by making everything overpowered. While the plane is undeniably good when upgraded, it still has its issues. The acceleration is still pretty bad even when spaded, and during the stock grind, when you only have cannons available, the plane is almost uncompetitive. The MiG is also not really suitable for top tier close air support in ground realistic battles. I would still much prefer the G91R3 with its 4 Nords. The G91 is more nimble and just has a better weapons loadout. Another major setback is it is almost mandatory to purchase the expert qualification for this plane. Due to the extreme speeds involved at top tiers, using anything other than a highly trained pilot will lead to frequent blackouts due to over-G. This effectively doubles the cost up to 2,040,000 silver lions, which is a significant chunk of money. The MiG-21 certainly has its disadvantages, but it has far more positives in comparison, and is probably the most dominant jet in War Thunder at the moment. I have thoroughly enjoyed playing this jet, and whilst the initial stock grind is tedious, it is incredibly fun to play once you have got used to its high drag flight characteristics. As always, I hope you found this video useful lads, and thank you very much for watching.